Now that we have our actual objects that we're getting from our backend in the shape that we need them to be for our front end with the route and the ID, let's finally convert this into the actual object map that we need to store inside of our reducer. So what we're going to do is we are going to use the reduce function on our new transform collection array. And what we want to reduce down to is that final object. So for the second parameter of our reduce, we're just going to pass in the empty object as our initial accumulator. Then the function will get the accumulator as the first value and our collection object at the current iteration as the second. And then what we want to do is we want to call our accumulator, so our object up until that point, and we want to set the property equal to our collections title, except lowercase. So we got to make sure to lowercase the value and then make that key that we've just set equal to our collection itself. We then have to make sure to return the accumulator so that it goes into the next iteration on our reduce. And then we got to make sure to reduce the final object that comes out of our whole reduce statement out of this function. Now, if that's confusing, let's just go over it again. We pass in our initial object. The initial object goes into the first new collection, right? First element, and it sets the first value equal to the title, but in lowercase. So the first value is going to be hats, right? So it'll be an empty object with a property of hats that's equal to the hats collection. And then it returns that object and it goes into the second object. If the second object is, say, jackets, then it's going to set a new property called jackets and then equal the jackets collection. So now you have an object that has a hats property equal to the hats collection and a jackets property equal to the jackets collection. And then so on and so forth until we end up with an object where the titles of all 5 of the collection objects are the keys, and then they equal their respective collection object. Now we'll see this just so that we can log it inside of where we're calling it in our shop component. And we'll just set it to a constant called collections map. And then we'll just make sure to console log this to see what it is that we ended up with. And now if I save, we should see that this is our object shape, right? This is almost identical to our shop data that we had stored on the front end. And now that we have this, we just want to finally store this in our shop reducer, because now that we have our modification, right, we just want to pass this and update our reducer. Now, how do we do this? Well, it's very simple. We're just going to update our reducer and Redux code to now be able to fire actions that update the reducer. So we'll make our usual shop.types.js, as you remember, because we need new actions now. And then we're also going to make a shop.actions.js. Now, inside of shop.types, we're just going to make a new const called, let's call it shop action types, and it'll be equal to a object with the property update collections that goes to the string update collections. And then we're just going to export this as the default export, shop action types. And then we're going to import this into our actions first action. So let's import in shop action types from shop.types. And we're going to make a new action, export const. Let's just call it update collections. And this is going to take a collections map, right? And what it will return is an object with the type of shop action types.update collections, where the payload goes to the collections map. We also have to update our reducer to now anticipate that action. So let's import in our shop action types again. And we're going to add a new case statement above our default, which returns us a new object with the state spread in, except the collections will go to our new payload. And now we just have to bring our action that we're going to use into our component and put it right here. So we're going to have to make this component a connected component. So we got to import connect from React Redux. And then we're just going to do a const map dispatch to props, which is going to be equal to a dispatch function. And we're going to say update collections goes to something that gets a collections map and calls dispatch on update collections, passing in our collection. Update collections is not defined. Oh, we got to import in our action as well. Can't forget to do that. From our Redux shop action. Update collections. And now we just have to make sure to destructure this as well as pass in our map dispatch to our connect. So let's do connect, null, map dispatch to props, wrapping our shop page. And let's make sure to destructure off our update collections from this dot props. And then we'll pass our collections map in. And now if we save, we should see inside of a reducer that we have our new collections with the IDs from our backend in the shape and format that we're looking for. Awesome. So we've transformed our array into the map and updated our shop Redux files to be able to update and store this new collections map object. Now, we're also going to have to make some other changes, such as removing all of the default data from our shop reducer, because we now no longer need this anymore. But that will come with a couple other architectural changes of our application that we will discuss in the next lesson.